Good. Good to go? Okay. Council, we'll call this meeting to order. Thank you very much, staff, councilors, people in the gallery. Wednesday, June 19th meeting will commence right at 6 p.m. We will get right down to business. We have lots to unpack tonight. Before we begin, I'll give a land acknowledgement. This gathering acknowledges the land upon which we meet is the traditional territory of First Nations people who have a long-standing relationship with the land, water, and regions of Southwest Middlesex. The nations along the banks of the Thames include the Chippewa of the Thames, Oneida Nation of the Thames, Munsee Delaware Nation, and Delaware Nation of Moraviantown. We convey our respect to our Indigenous neighbors and thank them for their contributions to our culture, community, our past, and partnerships in the future. Council, I understand there's been some disclosure of pecuniary interest in the planning part of the meeting. I want to thank Councillor Choi, Councillor McGill for acknowledging that. And is there any, I don't think there's any additional ones other than those two. I see our clerk shaking her head there, so I confirm that that is correct. I have been advised that there are no additions to the agenda. The chair will look forward to receiving a motion and a seconder to adopt the agenda of June 19th as circulated. Is there a mover and a seconder? Councillor Choi, Councillor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. Council, there has been an update in the correspondence in respect to the consent. Well, we have delegations and presentations. We'll get right into that. We want to thank Four Counties Health Services for coming this evening. We have the lights on at this meeting, which we didn't have on the last one, and it is good that we don't have to find our way in the dark. You make yourself comfortable. If you need any additional chairs, Kendra will make sure that you'll be looked after there. Okay, and she'll prompt you on the microphone. Yeah, and we want to certainly thank Tom, Julie, and Jackie, I believe. We welcome you with warm hearts, and you go right ahead and fill us in on what's going on at the hospital there.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Mayhew, members of council and staff, and guests in our gallery. I'm Tom Jeffrey, chair of the foundation at Four Counties Health Services Foundation, and with me today is Julie McBrien, CEO of the MHA, and our fundraising coordinator, Jackie Beatty. It's my pleasure to present on behalf, and we'll do a three-part presentation. First, I'll do a little talk on what the foundation is doing, and we'll move on to that one, Jackie.
Okay, go
ahead.
Okay,
a few years ago, we developed a mission statement, and one of the important things that we've come out of that was that new mission statement. It's to build relationships that support Four Counties Health Services by raising awareness of critical equipment needs and encourage community ownership through giving. And this is a very important part because through ownership, people taking ownership of the hospital and what we need makes it possible for us to keep providing good care. Okay, our board is made up of 9 elected members and 3 ex officios, and Julie is one of those from representative from the hospital, and we have one from the MHA and one from the auxiliary that sit on the hospital board or the foundation board. Our structure is from the bottom up. We start with our auxiliary and move up to the foundation. We are at 2 hospitals. We're separated. We are 4 counties, and then there is Strathroy General Hospital as well. And we move up through the foundation and then meet the needs of the hospital. One of the most important things is we want to provide state-of-the-art medical equipment for patient care. This is very important. It allows us to increase the number of procedures that are completed in a day, and it reduces wait times, and it keeps care close to home. One of the recent studies that was done by a municipality showed that one of the major impacts, or one of the things that attracts newcomers to an area, are first jobs and then their access to healthcare. That was number two in that study. So it's very, it was kind of an interesting thing, but it is. And hospitals not only impact the quality of healthcare, but they also impact the viability and sustainable of our rural communities, which is very important. Every year we get a need list from the hospital. This year we have a equipment need of $224,000 for the hospital. A lot of this equipment is very vital to providing state-of-the-art equipment for the hospital. And Jackie will go into that a little further in our spring appeal. And then I want to thank you for your commitment back in, I guess it was 2014 for the 10-year commitment to the DI suite. And that's been very much appreciated and very much used, as Julie will point out, by the numbers of procedures that are done there in a year. And now I'll turn it over to Julie for her part in the presentation.
Okay, for the most of you I don't know, so I just wanted to say hello. I'm Julie McBrien, President and CEO of the Middlesex Hospital Alliance. I've been at the MHA since 2021, but I've been President and CEO just since February of last year. I am a registered nurse by background, and I live in Strathroy. I belong to the Glencoe Curling Club as well, so I am up this way quite often, and I'm usually out at Four Counties one day a week. Can I ask how many of you have used Four Counties for?
All of us.
Okay, so you are pretty familiar with what we offer, so that's terrific. So I appreciate having friends in the room that know what we do. So we do have a really short video that was funded by Middlesex County, which provides a great overview of our services, and it's narrated by Dr. Dreyer. So, okay.
You want me to pause it to see if I can get the sound? Yeah. There we go.
Dr. Dreyer is our Deputy Chief of Staff in an ED position.
Yeah. Yeah. Sure.
Okay, well, that's great. Thank you very much thanks for trying.
Well, I'm going to go back and slide some.
describe the room better than that, so. So our next slide talks about care closer to home. And I think this is probably one of my most important slides here because it just highlights how far 4 counties is away from this area. And it's really 9 minutes. And you'll see the comparative distances to Strathroy as well as to London. And the distances are much longer, like 26 minutes or 49 minutes. So, and research has shown the closer you are to healthcare services, when you need them, the better the outcomes are. So the fact that you have a hospital just 9 minutes down the road is of great value when there's really a need. And as Dr. Dreyer referenced in the video, we do stabilize critical patients. We often get traumas, whether they be from highway accidents or from farming accidents and that sort of thing. Oftentimes those patients do come to us, we stabilize patients, and then we have the helicopter pad that's able to then transport patients to London Health Sciences Center or wherever they need to go for trauma care. We also, during COVID, implemented a negative pressure room, which was helped with the funding from our foundation as well. And really, that's just a good spot where we're able to take care of more critical patients, stabilize them before we can transfer them out. As Tom referenced, this slide kind of goes over all the different services we provide at 4 counties and the volume of activity we do. So number of visits, that sort of thing. And these volumes are for last year, so ending of the end of March. And what you'll see in every case, our volumes are up from the previous year. So the little brackets are what our volumes were previous year. So ED visits are up, physio visits are up, diagnostic imaging visits are up. So we are busier than we have ever been at 4 counties, and that's just a testament to the needs within the community, and we're endeavoring to meet those needs. This has a lot of data on it, but I think the key pieces, the pie chart on the left kind of highlights when patients have to stay overnight with us, where they come from. And what you'll see is about 1/3 of our patients are from the Middlesex area that have to spend the night with us. And the pie chart on the right highlights our ED visits and where those patients come from. And what you'll see there is about 1 in 4 patients that come through our ED are from the Middlesex County. And I always get asked about emergency department visits. And this graph just quickly highlights by month our emergency department visits going back from 2013 to kind of almost current day. And you'll see, 10 years ago, we were at 800 visits a month. Now we're well up over 1,200. So volumes are growing exponentially based on need for various reasons. And I'm proud to say we have not closed a single day in our emergency department since I've been at the MHA, which is, I think, a huge testament to dedicated staff and physicians, because we do hear of many emergency departments in the Southwest region closing because of various reasons. And this is just a quick snapshot of our staff. Many live and work in this community, so this is a day in the life of many of the staff that are also live in this region. We're also fortunate to have a number of other things that we offer. We have a palliative care suite, which again was funded with the support of our foundation, which we're privileged to be able to help support patients in their last days and their families. We also have family doctors that look after our patient on our inpatient unit, and we have a number of dedicated family physicians that help support us with that. So we're very fortunate there. And then the video also highlighted the health visit village concept. And we're more than just a hospital. We want to be a local place in the community where we can provide the needs of the community. And again, the lab was highlighted, our foundations who are in the red house across the parking lot, the dental clinic, SOHAC, which is going to be expanding from 2 days a week at 4 counties up to 5 with funding from the province. We've got the villa next door. And then there's a picture in the middle of the hitching post we installed last fall to help support our Amish community who are either coming for visits or appointments. So, and last but not least, I just wanted to highlight, we do have a patient and family advisory council at the MHA, which is made up of previous patients or family members from both sites. You may recognize some familiar faces there, but they undertook an activity to update our patient mission and values. And this is really the relationship we have with our patients and families. But what do our patients and families need and expect from us? And then what can we expect from them when they come through our doors? So this is our kind of agreement with them, and our Patient and Family Advisory Council undertook that. And that was a big, that was a really positive thing for the MHA in the last year. So, and I'll turn it over to Jackie.
Thank you. Thank you, Your Worship. And I think I should introduce myself as well. I'm Jackie Beattie. I'm from Bothwell. I came on board with the foundation 2 years ago as a fundraising coordinator as part of their new strategic plan. And it's been a privilege to be able to support the hospital and to engage with the community and get to know everyone a little more. So as Tom mentioned, each year we get an appeal for the year, which from the hospital prioritizes which equipment they'd most like to have, like a wish list, I suppose. And usually it's about $250,000 that we found that our area can support. So we divide that up into 2 appeals. So our spring appeal, which we're in right now, we are fundraising for these 5 pieces of equipment. And one of the ones that I like to highlight, we're really focusing on respiratory therapy because since COVID, well, because of COVID and more, there have been more respiratory illnesses. They're very prevalent right now, especially among children. So this new ventilator at the top, on the top left side, sorry, my pointer, I can't point it. The ventilator that we're fundraising for will support both pediatric and adult patients. The current ventilator that we have, there's only one at 4 counties. It is only supportive of adults. So that is a wonderful addition. I just want to talk about this one interesting piece of equipment here at the bottom. It's called the Lucas chest compression system. And it is fascinating because it's a portable chest compression device for CPR. So a healthcare worker can put it on a patient. A patient actually fits into the middle there. It goes around their body and it will do chest compressions automatically. So it gives consistency and it frees up healthcare staff in order to help do other life-saving measures. So in the interest of time, I will try to go quickly through this. So right now in the spring, we are fundraising for just over $100,000. So we'd like to get, one of the things that, one of the reasons that the foundation had hired me as a fundraising coordinator was also to get more out into the community and learn some stories so we can tell stories about the hospital and how important it is to the community. And one of our favorite ambassadors is Barb Gerber, who lives in Glencoe, and her father was in palliative care at 4 counties, and she and her family experienced such kindness and wonderful treatment that she likes to go and tell her story about how important it is to support the hospital because of the care that we have there, not just at end of life, but all through our journey through life. And one of the other things that we're excited about is our auxiliary is getting up and going again. The gift shop's open again, and we're looking for members. Since COVID, it was closed. For 3 years, we didn't have the auxiliary up and running, so we're excited about that. Southwest Middlesex is one of our most tremendous supporters of the hospital, but the municipality and residents and businesses and organizations all support the hospital very well. One of our favorite events of the year is the Bonspiel that the Glencoe Curling Club put on, and this year they far surpassed their previous fundraising goals, and they raised $6,200 for the hospital. So we appreciate that, and any of the service groups that support our efforts. Another fundraising goal that we're doing right now is a hospital lottery that goes in with 58 other hospitals in Ontario. So when you buy a ticket, you can choose to support your own hospital, say 4 counties, or you can support all the hospitals. So we all support healthcare in Ontario when we support this lottery. And actually the draw is this Friday. So if you're interested, tickets are done on Thursday, tomorrow. And our coming events, our signature golf tournament, our signature event, the golf tournament is coming up on July 12th. We're still looking for golfers. We need about 6 teams, and we get tremendous support again through sponsors and donations from the community. We appreciate that. And we will be having a dinner theater fundraiser in the fall. So I think this is probably the most important slide for the community. You know, I think we all love living in a rural community, but we also know as counselors, especially, you know how hard it is to maintain our services and to draw people here. And as Tom mentioned, one of the most important things to draw people to community is healthcare. So not only is it important for our own quality of life, it's important for our community viability to have excellent healthcare And thanks to our supportive communities such as Southwest Middlesex, we do have wonderful state-of-the-art equipment for the hospital. And we do appreciate your past donations and for the past 20 years, you have contributed $10,000 a year to the hospital. So we really appreciate that. And I think we just have questions. If anyone would ask a question.
Thank you very much. It was a great presentation. I think all of us realize the importance of 4 counties, and it goes beyond the medical care. It's the socioeconomic aspects of it too that we rely on. You produce salaries out there that are spent locally. There's events. We are fully aware of the importance in our community. Council, I invite you to ask questions in regard to that, or any queries? Yes, Councillor Vink, go ahead, please.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. On Facebook, every once in a while, you hear about walk-in clinics and emergency department. And so what do you consider your emergency department? Like you would have people come in with on the weekend that probably have a cold, right? So where do you draw the line?
So we never draw the line. So anybody who comes into our emergency department, we assess them and then treat them accordingly. So yeah, we do have some patients that show up that may not need emergency level care, but they may not have a family doctor or may have to wait a long time for a family doctor. So, I mean, that is in a community like ours, that is a service we have to provide. Would we love to see more walk-in clinics in the area? Absolutely. Because that would take a little bit of the pressures off of us for some of the lower acuity types of things. But yeah, anyone comes through our doors, I mean, our intention is that we will assess them and then treat them accordingly for sure. So.
Thank you. Any further questions? I noticed in your, oh, go ahead, Mike. Yeah.
I just wondered if there's been any discussion on an expansion to the villa.
Yes, so I sit on, as president and CEO of the MHA, I sit on the board for the villa. So I meet with them every month at their board meeting. And over the last year in particular, there's been ongoing discussions about expanding the villa. There's even been some draft drawings of what those renderings could look like for the different layouts. I mean, ultimately, the villa is an independent entity of themselves, and they need to follow up with the various levels with ministry around how to fund such an expansion if that is something that they're absolutely interested in doing. But we have absolutely lent our support for how we could support with that, whether it be land or other things they might need to make that come to fruition. But you know, absolutely, we want to support that, and I do think there's an absolute need in the community for especially assisted living supports for sure.
Thank you.
Julie, COVID-19 obviously had a great impact on 4 Counties Hospital. And when I looked at your chart of emergency visits, I noticed a real decline in one particular part of the graph. And I would think that would be during the height of COVID-19. Could you discuss that or give us some light on that?
Yeah, absolutely. In the graph, you'll see the dips down. And that was, when nobody wanted to come to the hospitals during COVID. But as you can see, we bounced back. So every time there was like a new wave, that's when we saw volumes dip down. But as what you can see from the diagram, we've totally bounced back from that. And then now we even surpassed even previous volumes from what we had. So
okay.
Even Tom was sharing with me that he had someone that he knew there yesterday. And, we had a trauma and we had a sick baby. And, that's it's just the reality of what we see there. And, it's a busy location and much needed for the community for
sure. One more question, if you don't mind. What about mental health? We find as mayor, I'm sure our councillors have experienced it too. There's very rarely a day goes by when I don't get an issue concerning mental health. Is there a department out there that look after that?
So we don't specifically have a department related to mental health, nor do we in Strathroy either. No, I know some of the family doctors in the area have some access to additional mental health supports, but we don't specifically have any services out at 4 counties. So if someone came in through our emergency department that needed mental health services, we would link with London Health Sciences Center or St. Thomas Elgin Hospital, depending on what that patient needs. It's challenging. I'll be frank in that it's challenging in smaller hospitals to have a psychiatrist. They need to have a certain volume to make a practice worth it for them. So it makes it challenging to try to recruit a psychiatrist for smaller areas. But it's something we'll continue to advocate for and try to see how.
But there is a protocol in place where you can access London Health
Sciences and other services. Absolutely, there is. Yeah, the emergency department can link to.
Sounds good. Okay, last call for questions. Well, we certainly want to thank the three of you very, very much. I know that, you know, our future financing, we certainly will take it under very serious consideration. And I know that Four Counties is close to our hearts, and we will certainly bring that up in forthcoming financial discussions. Okay? Thanks very much.
We do appreciate your continued support in now and into the future.
Good. Well, certainly, you won't be forgotten. Thank you. Looks like just the one delegation before us under this section of the agenda. The consent agenda is for you. And the council minutes, we'll go through these very quickly. There is one that will require some consideration. Council minutes have been copied and circulated. Should there be no errors or omissions, accept them as presented. 5B, Middlesex County Development Charges, public meeting. The recommendation is before you. I'm going to ask Jeff to perhaps comment on this a bit. I think this provides some good governance to ask council to consider this. It is revenue producing, and it will produce some tax stabilization in the future. Jeff, could you comment on this to some degree?
Sure. I don't have the report up, so can you just remind me what page the report's on in PDF? If you can grab that for me, please. So development charges are a tricky one, and I wrote quite a bit of background on this report for Southwest Middlesex County or Southwest Middlesex municipality, because we don't have development charges for regular development projects at this time. And, you know, to put it in scale, I think the development charges for each building permit for a single family in Middlesex Center, for example, are in the area of $30,000. I think the chart that Arnie provided in the report gives those numbers. So they have a significant impact on development. If you look at it from the perspective of us not having them today, we haven't had a lot of development, so there hasn't been a lot of demand, but we're anticipating a lot of development. And the concept of development charges is that new development should fund development, because if you don't isolate those incremental costs for new development and charge them to your new developments, then it's being borne by the broader tax base. What page, Ken? Thank you. So the sort of philosophy around development charges is that they're complex to develop and they're complex to administer, but they're meant to be fair in terms of having new development pay for the cost, the incremental costs of new development. Not existing, you can't use it to fund replacements. And but if there was something that was required to be expanded because of the impact of new development, then you could consider having a development charge that you add on to the building permit fees, which is a logical place to collect that money. So two parts of this. Number one, the county is considering development charges, and it would be for the areas of county service that that they provide in our community. And 45, did you say? If I had my notes, I could not wander as much. In the, yeah, okay, there we go. So the county services that are applicable are services related to a highway. So you think about what the county does for us. They do arterial roads, collector roads, bridges and culverts and roundabouts, traffic signals and active transportation. And if you think about it for a moment, the cost to maintain those services is expensive, but as the community grows and as the amount of traffic on those roads grow, which is directly development driven, there's a need to make investments to put turning lanes in, for example, or intersections get busier and busier and busier, and you suddenly need a roundabout or a traffic light. And those are incremental costs that are development related. And so I will talk a little bit about the county's, or we have presented the county's case for development charges. And I think that the numbers, if anyone went through the background report, and if we think about the concept of having $5,000 added to the price of every home that gets built in Southwest Middlesex, is kind of an eye-popping number. But I think it's recognized that if you have to add turning lanes or roundabouts, those kinds of costs are pretty extraordinary and they add up. And so the county's exercise here is an attempt to capture all those costs, come up with a long-term plan, and then identify a way that those costs can be funded by development so that development pays for development. And the incremental part of those costs, the cost that's specifically related to development, not maintenance of what we already have, but development. And if you follow that philosophy, it would make more sense that that be collected by development charges, because the alternative is, if it happens, it's going to be funded by the levy, and it's going to be part of what this municipality sends to the county as levy, and it's going to get spread across the tax base. So it's difficult to, well, you can't criticize the county for wanting to do a charge like this, because it's properly aligning incremental costs with where they should go. And it's an attempt by the county to also cut the levy in the future, but it adds costs to homes. And the second part of this discussion is that Southwest Middlesex doesn't have our own development charges, and probably up to this point, not necessary, but probably the right time to start considering it, because there are incremental costs of development which will emerge in our community, more needs for signal lights and turning lanes and things like that. As we grow, and if we grow rapidly, those costs will become difficult to contain. And if you don't have development charges in a plan, you will have to pay for them out of general levy, which means you're paying for it by the overall community rather than development paying for development. So that's a kind of a real nickel summary explanation of why development charges have become a very big part of the Ontario financing system for municipalities. And, you know, my first inclination is say, don't do them, because they're extremely complicated. And the legislation has changed so much in the last, since 2017, there's 3 pages of changes listed in the Watson report. It's the best summary, by the way, I've ever seen. That Watson report is excellent. That background report that Watson did for the county, that was the link. It's a fantastic summary of the evolution of development charges since 2017. And if you wonder why treasurers are a little on edge, it's because every time there's a major change with this in financing, the municipality has to change its policies. And if you have municipalities that already have development charges reports, they all have to go back and be changed. The rules for transition have changed. The rules, everything's changed. And so my first inclination to say is avoid them if you can, but when you're in a municipality that's about to experience significant growth, and we know by the number of subdivision approvals we've had, we probably need to consider them here in Southwest Middlesex, and probably need to budget for at least an analysis. The great news is that we've got a 10-year capital plan. Maybe doesn't have some of the growth stuff in it. You've got a road needs study, and you've got all the background information that can be used to create a development background report, development charges background report. And you're probably at the time where you can now make a decision on it, because you're on the cusp of this development. The bad news is the developers will be frustrated because they haven't had to pay this fee in the past. But your only other alternative is to let those costs flow through the general tax base, which isn't fair to the residents that already live here. So that's the complex question. It's a question for yourselves as a municipality, and it's a question you should think about as you hear the county's plan. And so the report, the details of this work, Arnie Marsman from Middlesex Center did a detailed analysis of the report. There's a lot of heavy lifting in that, and it hadn't really hadn't made my radar, and I just didn't catch the drift that it was coming up so fast. But many of the municipalities that get building services from Middlesex Center are relying on Arnie's analysis and Arnie's reports, and he's pointed out some really great questions. The upcoming open house that the county will hold is to engage in discussion. And the municipality, I would say to you, should at least contribute the comments that Arnie has flagged in the report, which I refer to in my report as what we would send along to the county. And we should encourage discussion with the county because, again, it comes back to these costs are going to be incurred by the county. And it's really this question about where's the best place to fund the growth. And I know that's a really complicated background, but since we don't have our own development charges, I think it's important to get it in. And I'm happy to answer any questions or assist in the discussion.
Thank you. Councillor Link first.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. So this proposed Middlesex County, that's if the county approves it, that's an automatic thing. Automatic for all municipalities in Middlesex County.
The charge would be across all of the municipalities, so it balances the county's growth impacts across all. And in cases where, so it's a great question, the answer is yes. And the complication with the answer for Southwest Middlesex is that we currently don't collect any development charges. So it's not just a matter of changing the amount that we collect. We also we have to develop the process, we have to collect the money, and we have to track the money and send it, and we have to communicate. So that's just the complication for Southwest Middlesex.
And one other question.
Yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. What about, it says county highways? So there's Longwood Road and things like that. And then when you go into Melbourne or Glencoe, what's considered a highway? Like, so, or in other words, would this be for any development in Southwest Middlesex?
So the charge would be to any development in Southwest Middlesex, even, on the subdivisions, because in theory, they use those county roads. This would be for all county roads. It would be for all arterial collector roads, bridges, culverts, roundabouts, all those things. Every new resident that you locate here with a home will, in theory, add a little bit of incremental impact on those services. And that's why the cost is a payment for that development impact, where the development's paying for development. But it adds $5,000 to the cost of a home right from the beginning. But that's why.
That being said, too, Councillor Link, that if those are put in place, it does add to the cost of the home. But in terms of our allocation that we pay in Middlesex County, that revenue will offset that almost to the tune of 6% or something like that. It does increase revenues of the county, which in hand will benefit the taxpayer. Any other questions? Yes, Deputy Mayor, go ahead.
Just wondered if we would be able to get a copy of that Watson report from 2017, if that would be possible. The links in there.
The links in the report, and certainly if we want to make a copy, so councilors, it's a pretty dense report. But the link, I include the link in the report that you can click the link and get to it. And then I highlighted some of the sections of the report that I think are where you best spend your time.
Jeff, if I could pose a question to you, when you talk about development charges, they're levied by a municipality or at the county level. The question that comes to me initially is, are we losing our competitiveness? And just because you put in development charges doesn't mean, I don't think, that you are losing competitiveness, because other areas around us, I don't want to compare ourselves to the GTA, of course, but when you get around the Kitchener-Waterloo area, the land prices and values are so high that it makes Southwest Middlesex look more affordable. But is there a threat that we would lose a competitive edge?
So our competitiveness is all relative. So we're going to be relatively inexpensive in the amount of our development charges because of the services that we offer and that we're applying those charges to. And so right now our taxes are relatively low. And if you start to look at our taxes and look at competitiveness, we're very competitive. We're very competitive in the Ontario landscape, and I think we're very competitive in Southwestern Ontario and Middlesex County in terms of our tax burdens. And that has to do with operational efficiency, right? And also the fact that we offer slightly less services than larger communities, and that arrives in savings, and that's the compromise that residents make when they move to your community. That'll be a challenge for you when you start to, because of the competitive cost of your housing, you see an influx of people from communities that had a lot of services come, and the newcomers will all want the same kind of services because they don't realize the taxes are cheaper for a reason. That's a communications issue. In this one, though, and it opens up a really good, and if you've been following the media and even the national media in the last couple of months, there's been a lot of criticism of GTA municipalities having development charges in the $60,000 and $70,000 range. It's very regulated what you can include in development charges, and it has to be charges that explicitly can be proven to be impacted by development. So what that number has got to say to you is, what you take from that number is, my goodness, it's expensive to grow. And it is. The price of land has gone up. The cost of asphalt and concrete has gone up. The cost of engineering, cost of approvals. So it is very expensive. And when you reach certain thresholds in growth, twinning or adding extra lanes to whole ranges of highways because of traffic volumes is going to be a large cost. I don't see us getting to that kind of magnitude for a very long time, if ever. However, that money is going to have to come from somewhere, because you as councillors are going to have the residents complaining about intersections that need, first of all, it's four-way stops, and then it's stoplights, and then it's roundabouts tends to be the evolution. Roundabouts aren't always the answer, by the way, but that seems to be the evolution. And that pressure is going to come. And so to have development charges would have you be able to plan for that pressure and to plan for its financing, and start putting money away for changes that will happen in 10 years, so you can maintain that competitive taxation advantage that you have now and keep it relatively low. So you see how it's all connected, and it's the same money. And Mayor Mayhew makes a really good point. We could say, you could object to the county's development charges, but if you believe their numbers, these costs are going to be incurred, and they're going to be paid by Southwest Middlesex one way or the other. They're either going to be paid by having collected development charges, or they're going to hit you on the levy, but the money has to come from somewhere. That's the conundrum.
Thank you. Any further questions? Yes, Martin, one more there.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just one quick question on non-residential. So does that mean person puts an addition on, or a farmer puts a building on, they're going to get a development charge as well?
So currently you don't charge development charges for agricultural. There are probably costs that impact the municipality's operations related to agricultural expansions. I think as a philosophy, I can't think of a municipality that's charged development charges to agriculture, but I can think of many examples where municipalities have upgraded roads to support their agricultural community. I don't believe Middlesex is talking about collecting agricultural. They're talking about ICIs, institutional, commercial, and industrial, which are your other ones. So it's not agriculture now. Whether agriculture should ever be subject to is debate for another day. So the institutional, commercial, and industrial, in our case, the institutional and commercial, you could in theory add the development charge to them, and it's done, I believe, on a square footage basis, if I can recall from the report. The industrial development charge that you might charge, you could do it where you front end all of your costs for your industrial development and then recover them from developers as you sell municipal industrial land. But I think in a case like Southwest Middlesex, where we have the land bought and we can create the project envelope, you're better to do the improvements to the land and recover all your costs for that development from the sale price of the land rather than setting up a development charges system. So you want to get the real cost of investment in your industrial lands back. And since you're the main industrial developer, you can do that by getting your value, getting your costs back on the land sale price, and then not charge development charges to the buyer of your industrial land. As it is complex for an economic developer, and most municipalities do it this way, it is complex for your CAO who does economic development to sit down with the potential buyer and ask them to bring their checkbook to the first meeting. So it's nice to not have development charges for industrial, but recognize that you can build them into the land price more efficiently than charging these development charges.
Okay. Any further questions? I'm gonna give you a real tough one, Jeff. Okay? Yeah, yeah. Jeff, it's gonna take a while for this to go through the channels of county and administration, and it may be a period of time before the bylaws are written pertaining to this. Is this an incentive for developers to get the hose in the ground a little quicker?
Yes, it could be. There could be a case where if you see the development charges coming, developers might want to load up permit applications. There's probably a cost benefit limit to that, but that is something you could realistically expect to see. Because right now, if you know the price is going to go up, my experience with development charges has all been with updating charges, not creating a new one. So, and there's two elements to that. Number one, the county has time. Although the cost of taking that time is that you're having people that are getting in without having to do development charges. And that costs the local municipality. So in one way, you should be encouraging the county to hurry, but on the other hand, you want it to be done right. And the county has the time because they're not up against an expiring bylaw. And the second part of that is that many times a municipality will implement them and then phase them in so that the hit all doesn't come at once. But the legislation has been changed to really tie the hands of municipalities for phase-ins. If you want to phase them in, you have to specifically fund that cost. So if you figure out that it should be a $5,000 cost and you phase it in over 5 years, as people apply for a permit, the municipality would have to set aside the difference in a development charges fund. And the legislation, I think, is intended to get development to pay for development. And some of these restrictions have kind of tried to limit the phase-ins and avoiding phase-ins. However, I think the unintended consequence is that municipalities aren't phasing in, and phasing in is not such a bad thing to sort of shoulder the burden. And legislatively, it's very restricted now. And that's just one of the changes they made.
Council, we've had a wholesome discussion on this. the recommendation is before you that, and the crux of it is that in reporting to the county of Middlesex, we'll ask that the analysis of Arnie Marsman, our CBO, represent the submission of Southwest Middlesex. The recommendation is before you. I think we've had ample discussion on it. Is there a mover and a seconder for this? Okay, so moved. Councillor Choi, seconder for that. Councillor Myers. Okay. And again, we realize that the money has to come from somewhere. And it's putting the responsibility on development and not on our citizenry. Any questions? We'll call the vote. All in favor? Carried. All opposed? All right, we're set to go. Okay. You can put that to bed, Jeff.
And can I just mention before you go ahead, the public meeting, the notice for the public meeting is on. It might be a, obviously the councillors of Southwest Middlesex have more than a passing interest on hearing from what the public and development communities might say. And I would just put the offer out for anyone. If you're looking through the background report and you have questions, or if you have questions about development charges in general, you can email me and I'll do my best to answer them. And I'm certainly not a development charges expert, but I recognize how complex it is.
Okay, moving on through the consent agenda, along with the Lakeshore project update, merely some courtesy information, extending questions to them, if we have any. 5C and 5D, Bill 185 fact sheet. During the last council meeting, I mentioned the 185 to the OFA, and they weren't. I mentioned at the time that this is a real change in the Planning Act. Council, you've heard the. We've gone through from A to D. We have dealt with 5B. The recommendation that the balance of the consent agenda be received for information and approves council meeting minutes. Is there a mover and a seconder? Thank you, Councillor Myers. Councillor Vink, all in favor? Carried. Council, the time is 6:52. I'll move that council enter into committee of adjustment at 6:52. Can I have a seconder for that, please? Councillor Choi, thank you. All in favor? Gary? Yeah. There has been some disclosure of pecuniary interest, and the councillors know the conflict they have, and I have no doubt that we can leave it to their discretion to just sit there as we discuss the matter that they deem they're in conflict of. Any further disclosure of pecuniary interest? That was been mentioned. The minutes have been prepared of the meeting of May 22nd, the Committee of Adjustment. Is there a mover and a seconder to approve the minutes as circulated? Councillor McGill, seconder. Councillor McCollum, all in favor? Carried. Alana, you got some work ahead of you here. Could you advise council of the purpose and effect of consent application B11/24 6280 Old Drive, the Campbell property? Okay. And what is being circulated now, council, is some material from the applicant. So Alana, when you're ready, take it away.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So the purpose and effect of the application for consent is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a surplus farm dwelling as a result of a pending farm consolidation. So the lands to be retained would have an area of approximately 1.43 hectares and would contain a single detached dwelling, in-ground pool, 4 barns, and 2 silos. The lands to be severed would have an area of approximately 29.78 hectares, and these lands would contain the farmland. So the provincial policy statement, County of Middlesex official plan, and the Southwest Middlesex official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose of a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to evaluation criteria. Staff is satisfied that the farm consolidation will be achieved and that the residents may be deemed surplus to the needs of a farming operation as a result of a farm consolidation. Given the applicants are proposing to retain 4 large barns and 2 silos with the dwelling on the lot to be retained, staff is of the opinion the proposed severed lot is larger than necessary to accommodate the dwelling and services. The scale of the agricultural buildings is beyond what could be considered accessory to a residential use. And having said that, considering the indicated location of the septic system in proximity to the barn directly behind the house and provided a change of use permit is obtained and the silos removed, staff could support the retention of the barn directly behind the house and the removal of the other barn's silo and a reduced lot area. If required, staff are of the opinion the floor area of the retained barn directly behind the house, which may exceed the maximum permitted floor area, is capable of being addressed through the zoning bylaw amendment process. And staff would like to note a condition regarding the requirement for a drainage apportionment was not included in the conditions in the report, although staff do recommend that this condition be added. So in regards to agency comments were received from the chief building official, public works manager, drainage superintendent, the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, and the county engineer, as well as Enbridge. And these comments are included within the report. No public comments have been received to date. Staff recommend that application B11-2024 be approved, subject to the 13 conditions outlined in the report, plus the 1 condition requiring a drainage apportionment for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. There's a process, we remind the gallery, there's a process that the chair follows in terms of a public meeting like this. And we'll stick to that agenda. Next, the applicant will be allowed the opportunity to speak. We want to thank the Campbells for being here and thank you very much for preparing this. I'm going to share mine with Jeff here, just as a visual, but certainly if you could present this to us, we'd appreciate it very much. Oh, yeah, just turn the mic on there. Yeah, we'll help you out there.
You'll have to bear with me. I'm not accustomed to speaking in
No problem.
public.
You're good. So,
Thank you for the opportunity to speak tonight. I'd also like to thank the planning staff for their hard work on this matter. Though we are disappointed that the recommendation did not include a slightly larger acreage and buildings. Like other people, I've gone too far ahead. Bob has lived on our property for the past 73 years, and I have been with him for 53 of those years. Like other people, we have accumulated many things over those years and need places to store them safely. Though the main barn behind the house is not in dispute, we have included pictures of it to show that we do strive to repurpose and improve the buildings. Barn 2 is our workshop and stool storage area. The shop is wood and brick clad on the inside, has cement floors, and is heated. Barn 3 is strictly used for personal storage. It has a steel ceiling, cement floors, and is insulated. We have included in the package that we handed out a list of the larger items that are stored within the barn. Barn 4 is a 3-bay pole barn that houses our 3 antique tractors. We hope that council would consider our wish, and we would ask that you approve our original application, as the buildings are very well maintained, and we would have nowhere else to store our things without the danger of them being stolen. We have already had a truck and a trailer stolen. It was left outside for only one night, and it was gone in the morning. We do get along very well with all of our neighbors, and we've had no complaints about this issue of severing. We've also included images of 5 severances that have been approved within 4 miles of our property. They range from 2.1 to 6.5 acres, and they've retained all of their buildings. Thank you for your attention, and I'm done.
Thank you, Sue. No, you've done well there. We appreciate that, and there will be an opportunity for council to ask you questions, and we will ask you to come back, Bob and Sue, for final remarks too before we close this off. Committee member remarks. Any questions you would like to ask Alana or the applicants? Bob, perhaps I could start it off. That extra land that you wished you had attained in this application, is that farmable land? There's not crop going on that land. Okay, so it's not going to be a detriment to harvesting or the food supply or anything like that. Okay, thank you. That's important to me and other members of council, and I kind of anticipated that answer from the drawings would be it's not cropped. Okay. Okay, council, your turn. Yes, Martin, go ahead. Councilor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. To Alana, the camels have shown a few examples of larger services. What are your comments in regards to that?
Through you, Mayor. So planning staff evaluate planning applications based on the policies in place today. So I believe most, if not all, were from planning applications from before 2020, or the provincial policy statement that is current for today. So just in general, planning staff evaluate these applications based on the policies of today.
Yes, Deputy Mayor Schultz.
Thank you, Mayor. Maybe just kind of further your comments on not being workable farmland. I see under 4B on page 4, under farm buildings, it says where such buildings are structurally sound, have potential for alternative and compatible uses, and or more likely to be maintained, they may be severed along with the surplus dwelling, subject to a permit rezoning. And I think that they've clearly demonstrated that they're not agricultural use. And I think I would be in favor of going for the 3.5 and leaving the buildings based on this information that they've supplied to council today. Thanks.
Okay, council, there's some more questions. Yes, Councilor Haggett, please go ahead. Okay, second mic set. Okay, it's on the floor. I'll just continue to ask council for some questions if they have any. We'll miss someone. Okay. All right, last call for questions. The motion reflects the wishes of the applicant, and again, yes. Okay, all right. And we'll let
I'll let Alana
I
speak to the
suspected
changes
it would-
of the conditions.
Okay, yes, in that case, what would we be looking at, Alana?
So staff recommend that change of use permits be obtained for the barns. And also just ensuring that the manure pit is filled.
Okay. The manure pit, you have no problem with that?
Yes, it's gonna be, I have peas in right now, and so the peas drop. I have the dirt ready to roll.
Okay. All right.
I think it's better to say decommissioned, because it wouldn't necessarily, and I know it's a little nuanced, but actually it wouldn't mean that it would have to be necessarily filled, but it just wouldn't function as a manure pit. And the change of use, it would just mean that the use is not a barn anymore, so you don't end up, just to be clear about why and I just want to mention to council that Alana's done a really good job of explaining what her role is, and that it's her role to bring to council what the policy says. And planning is a very complex business. because of the fact that every site has its unique circumstances. And because of that, you run into exceptions like this. And I think everyone's doing their role perfectly in the way this is supposed to meant to be a public discussion and debate. And but we also have to remember that there's a precedent every time. And planning's tricky because the site characteristics are so unique that a lot of times planning precedent doesn't carry the weight that other precedents do. And so this is good democracy, these kinds of decisions and this kind of discussion. And I just want to mention that Middleland has done a good job of bringing forward the county position.
Well, Jeff is so bang on that, and I know council will recall to the accolades that we've given our planning department. We know they have to look at things as they are claimed by the province, and there is always a risk that someone would object to it down the road, but this is not unprecedented that this council extend a minor variance in order to accommodate structure, things of that nature. And the question that no farmland will be put out of production would weigh well with the county as well. Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you very much, Bob. Sue?
Okay, so
You don't think you want to pick up
What
a
does that
planning
mean?
career here, Sue? Yeah, well, yeah, before you go, Bob,
I think if maybe for Alana or Jeff or a combination, I think they're just curious what the next steps would be. What are they looking at next?
I'll go out and speak to them.
okay,
thank you very much.
thanks very much. Okay, so,
Did we get the resolution? Was that as amended? Was the motion as amended to add those conditions? Just double check.
So the
Okay.
conditions Elena mentioned were the drainage, as well as the
Decommissioning of the.
decommissioning and
uh,
the change of
use.
use permits for the barn.
okay,
Good. I just wanted to make sure
And,
council realized you did pass the exact resolution that has the modified condition.
okay, and to the Campbells, our staff, don't hesitate to get engaged with their staff or give them a call. If you need directions on the balance of the process, there'll be a friendly voice on the phone, okay? All right, thank you. We are on consent application B12/24, 177 Main Street. We realize Councilor McGill's conflict in this area. Can you advise council of the purpose and effect of 177 Main Street severance, Alana?
Thank you, Mayor, through you. So the purpose and effect of the application for consent is to sever a parcel of land for the creation of a residential lot with a frontage of approximately 40.12 meters along Victoria Street and an area of approximately 0.37 acres. So the parcel to be severed would contain the single detached dwelling, and the parcel to be retained would contain the Glencoe Presbyterian Church and a small shed. Staff are of the opinion that the proposed severance application to create a severed lot for residential purposes and a retained lot for institutional purposes is consistent with the provincial policy statement and the county and Southwest Middlesex official plans, as the proposal is located within a settlement area with access to full municipal services, which is encouraged within the policy documents. A portion of the retained lands would contain R11 zoning, although the majority would be zoned institutional. And given that the zoning bylaw states when there are multiple zones on a property, the zone lines shall be deemed to be lot lines, it would be appropriate for the portion of land zoned residential first density R1 to be rezoned to institutional I as a condition of consent. Staff would like to note the report contains a condition requiring the payment of cash in lieu of parkland dedication. So that's condition 7 of the recommendation. And staff would like to remove this condition from the report. In regards to agency comments were received from the St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, the county engineer, the chief building official, the public works manager, and the drainage superintendent. These comments are attached to the report. Comments from the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority were also received, but after the writing of the report, and no objections were reported. No public comments have been received to date. Staff recommend that application B12-2024 be approved, subject to the conditions outlined in the report, along with removing the cash in lieu parkland dedication for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thanks, very much. Lou, how are you tonight?
I'm well, Mr. Mayor and councillors and staff.
Lou, the opportunity, now is for you to, speak to the issue if you'd like.
Okay. I'm Lou Brulé, and I'm agent acting for Glencoe Presbyterian Church. Our minister has purchased the home of their own, her and her husband, and therefore our manses have become redundant, and we would like to put it up for sale. In order to do that, we need to sever the property from our, like the property is all one parcel. So we need to sever the lot that the manse is on so that we can sell it. A few things I'd like to mention, and that is for condition number 4, the utilities are all separate for the manse and the church. I can demonstrate, I have the municipal bills here if you need to see them. We feel that, this will make it quite a bit, this will make it easier to accomplish what we're trying to do. Where the church parking lot is zoned residential, and since taxes are assessed based on use, not on actual zoning, I believe that the zoning was left as is. The church would still not be taxed. If the zoning of that area was changed to institutional, I'd ask that council waive the rezoning. The church lets various organizations use the building. Quad County is in there every week. And it's open for any other groups that need it for a special occasion. Our minister is very active in the community and helps out a lot of people. So I'm asking if this could be possible. Other than that, I don't have much else. I've been through all the other conditions, and we will work through those as quickly and efficiently as possible.
No. Thank you, Lou. It looks like you were in good hands with Alanda there. Committee member remarks, the opportunities to present questions. Yes, Councillor Vink.
Thank you, Mayor Allen. Just for curiosity's sake, question or point number 6. Some of these buildings on the main drag are pretty close to the road, and it says here, owner is required to dedicate lands up to 50 meters. So what about if the front of a building is, can you comment on that, Alana?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councillor Vink. So when existing buildings or features are closer to the road or within a right-of-way widening, the county reviews on a site-by-site basis. Thank you.
Okay. Yes, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to Alana, or I'm not sure who can answer this, but how much is the rezoning fee? Is this something that we need to consider today to make that decision?
Through you, Mayor, the fee is $1,800.
All right. And then we've got that and follow up. Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Yes. Is it something that we need to make a decision on today?
You can do a separate resolution if you wish tonight, but you don't have to deal with this today, I don't think. What are your thoughts?
Well,
Yeah.
I think, if council wishes that to be taken into consideration, I'll ask some advice from our interim CAO here, but I don't find it's real beneficial in putting things off.
So the the reason you don't have to make a decision about it tonight is that the amount that you charge for the zoning isn't a condition of severance. You're just really setting the conditions of severance tonight. And I would suggest that you ask staff to investigate the pros and cons of waiving zoning fees. My first inclination is say it's a really dangerous area because the money has to come from somewhere to pay for those applications. But I think asking staff to investigate if this is kind of a precedent-setting problem, that's a good way to approach it.
Thank you, Jeff, for that. That's good information. Any further questions? Lou, this is an awkward question to ask you. I know my tongue is in my cheek when I do it, but I find with most organizations of faith that the rectory or the manse remains property of the congregation, whereas the church in itself is not.
Right.
It can be a property of the diocese of that, whatever belongs to that church. So the proceeds of sale would actually stay within the congregation of that church. And the reason I mention that, I know it's an awkward thing to talk about, but it solidifies the grounding of the congregation. It puts you on a better financial basis. And we do realize the benefits we have by having your parish there. And the proceeds of sale certainly will stabilize your future as well. And I'm glad that that would be forthcoming. I know I find the ladies that work in the kitchen of churches are very often offended when the church closes that the proceeds of sale do not go to the ladies who work so hard over 135 years.
Right.
Yeah.
The proceeds from the sale of the manse will definitely stay within the congregation here. And with the Presbyterian Church in Canada, we have to pay a housing allowance to our minister. And the proceeds from the sale of the manse will be invested and will assist us in paying that housing allowance.
Okay.
So that's one of the things. And all the income that we have for our congregation is through charitable donations. We do some fundraising functions a year. One was the pork barbecue that we had here on June 1st, and we have a silent auction back in the fall. Those are two fundraising functions that we do in our congregation.
That's good. Okay. There have been no oral submissions or written submissions. Lou, I am down to a final remark if you so wish, but covered it all. Anything else?
I don't think so. If there's any other questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Well, we appreciate Alana working with you and coming up with a decision they did. Decision is ours, committee. What's your wish on this? Deputy Mayor Schuldice?
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I'll move the recommendation, including the removal of clause number 7.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Vink? Okay. Discussion with the committee. Yeah, last call? Okay, moved and seconded. And Kendra, you've got that clause 7 in there as well. All in favor of the motion? Moved unanimously. Lou, thank you very much.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Okay, council, we are now on to consent application, the third of 3, B13/24, 3872. Appreciate Councillor Choi's submission of declaration of interest. And Alana, can you advise the committee of the purpose and effect of this application?
Thank you, Mayor. So the purpose and effect of this application is to sever a parcel of land to facilitate the disposal of a surplus farm dwelling as a result of a farm consolidation. The parcel to be severed would have an area of approximately 1.01 acres, and the parcel to be retained would have an area of approximately 99 acres. The provincial policy statement, County of Middlesex official plan, and the Southwest Middlesex official plan generally permit lot creation in agricultural areas to dispose a dwelling surplus to a farming operation as a result of farm consolidation, subject to criteria. Staff are satisfied that the criteria for the surplus farm dwelling severance is capable of being met through conditions of consent, and is of the opinion that the application is consistent with the provincial policy statement and both the county and Southwest Middlesex official plans. In regards to agency comments, comments were received from the Deputy Chief Building Official, Manager of Public Works, Drainage Superintendent, St. Clair Region Conservation Authority, the County Engineer, and Enbridge, and these comments are included within the report. Comments from the Lower Thames Valley Conservation Authority were received after the writing of this report, and they advised no objections. No public comments have been received to date. Staff recommend that the consent application be granted, subject to the 10 conditions noted in the report for the reasons outlined in the report. Thank you.
Thank you, Alana. I don't believe the applicant is present, Kendra, so we'll bypass that. Committee remarks, are there any? Seeing none, I have not been advised of any oral or written submission. Applicant is not present or his agent. And committee decision. Is there a mover and a seconder for this recommendation? Okay, thank you. Councilor McCollum, seconder for that. Councilor McGill. Questions, last call? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Alana, for walking us through that. Future meetings, staff will advise the committee members, council and committee. The adjournment time is 7:20. We will motion to, I'll move the adjournment of this. I will ask for a second on this to adjourn this meeting. Thanks, Councilor Myers. All in favor? Carried. Council, we are at the public meeting portion of our agenda. We will be going into the Court of Revision. At this time, I will ask that the appointment of the Court of Revision, I would like to see a Scholdice, Vink, McGill, and Choi as members of that committee. If you do not wish to participate on that, just please advise the chair. Okay, and is there no objections to me chairing that meeting? Okay, then we will go into committee of the Court of Revision rather at 7:22, Kendra, with the appointees as stated from the chair. Is there a mover and a second? Councilor Choi, Councilor McCollum, thanks very much. And council, this shouldn't take long for those who aren't on here. Just stay put or take a break, whatever you wish. Okay, we have got the appointments. We have gone into that. We have stated the time. There is a process staff that we must go through. The first will be the McGregor Drain. Is the engineer present here? No, just you, Andrew. Good as anything. Andrew, if you'd like to speak to it, to introduce it to council, please go ahead. And of course, I remind council too that we are not talking about engineering. We are only talking about the apportionment of the costs that this has been given first and second reading in the approval of the engineering, and so it's just the allotment portions present. Andrew, any comment at all, or are you content?
I am content.
Okay, thank you very much. There's been no appeals, Kendra. Questions from members? Are there any? Seeing none. Then we will make a decision. The recommendation is for you that the assessment as levied by Street and Associates dated April 19th be adopted by provincial bylaw 2024/031 to pay for the drainage works known as the McGregor Drain and be confirmed. Is there a mover and a seconder for that, please? Okay, Councillor Choi, seconder for that. I might have missed a hand here. Councillor McGill, sorry, Mark. The sun's in my eyes there. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Court of Revision continues with the Raycraft Winship Drain. Again, Andrew, I don't believe there has been any appeals. We can proceed with this without any more input from you is fine. Are there any questions from members on the assessment? We will not need much time to deliberate in that case. And the decision is the assessment is levied by Street and Associates dated April 19th, 2024 and adopted by provincial bylaw 24/32 to pay for the drainage works known as the McGregor Drain be confirmed. Mover and a seconder for that, please. Councillor Vink, Councillor Choi. All in favor? Carried. Kendra, we will adjourn the Court of Revision at 7:26. Thank you very much, committee members. Thank you, the council, for setting it out there. A motion it has been made to adjourn the Court of Revision so we can go into staff reports. Section 8, finance, request for budget reallocation. Kristen, the ball's in your court there. If you'd like to advise council of your recommendations here.
Sure can. But I think this is the third kick at this can. I apologize for not being here the first couple of times to help walk through this. So correct me if I'm wrong, but we're good with the air fryer. What's in question right now is the 37,600 reallocation for the Wardsville from the Wardsville pumper truck reserve to the fire training budget, HVAC and paving for the fire hall. So the reason that I typically recommend budget reallocations in the same department is to keep them whole. Obviously, it is entirely up to council whether or not they wish to move from one department to another. But in either event, these would have been funds that were raised in the 2024 budget, not meant to be spent in 2024, but reserved for future use. So all I'm trying to do now is remove it from that reserve to use for projects that have overflowed this year. So whether that be from the room that we had set aside for in fire or a pumper truck, either way, it's not an imminent project in 2024.
Okay. All right.
Maybe answer any questions?
Yep, certainly will. We'll just, if you're done, we'll certainly, the recommendation is before you. Certainly, opportunity to ask questions to Kristen. Go ahead, Councillor Haggett, you first.
Well, there was 50,000 budgeted already. That money's already there. So why would we want to take from reserves, and they're not spending that money, they didn't need it. Why aren't we using it, is what I don't understand. Are they confused on this? Because it's already budgeted, and they don't need it. So why would we draw from reserves? We can use that.
I know what you're thinking. It was budgeted to go to reserves. So we're arguing about the same thing that we agree on. You know what I mean? So in 2024, we budgeted for the room to go to reserves and the pumper truck funds to go to reserves. 50,000 each. We raised from the taxpayers in 2024 to go to reserves for future projects. Whether we take from the reserve the room or the fire truck, at the end of the day, we're still taking from reserves.
Yes. One follow up, Jody.
I guess I'm a little confused because there's other places that we could go on this side, so maybe we should just leave the paving till next year, take that 75 grand, do this, and then we're probably gonna have some costs on the pool, I'm assuming. That's because apparently the roadways there, I guess, are caving a bit to go down the thermal. You wouldn't want to pave it now.
Yeah, I chatted with the chief, in fact, a couple of us did, the other day, and, you're correct, the sinkholes the progression of the sinkholes has stopped. They're hopefully they're caused by glycol leaking on there, and, they're aware of it, but, they think that, you know, they certainly, indicated, to us, they're certainly looking forward to having that paved at the time. It is posing a few maintenance problems within the station, the dirt and the refuse, things like that. Yeah, Councillor Choi.
Thank you. I do feel that we should be keeping the fire money with the fire, like the fire budget for the fire department, and then just use the facility reserves from the air fryer to go towards the facility of the pool. If we're going to do it that way. And I think it's more imminent needing those funds than an air fryer.
Yep, go ahead.
The air fryer was filed for the ring. I don't think we should pay right now. Yeah, they go on gravel.
I don't know, it's going back.
They go around gravel for 14 years.
Yes, go ahead, Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Mayor Mayhew. I understand what Councillor Haig is saying. When we had our meeting out there recently for the live train, they mentioned that they have recently had another sinkhole. And I really think that we need to take care of the heating before we do the paving. That's probably not going to be both done in 1 year. I wondered if we could take the 75,000 for the paving, use it to pay for everything else, and then whatever's left, can we put that into a reserve for paving next year?
Yeah, that will work.
That's absolutely, yes, we can do that.
Okay. And any other questions? I think go ahead, Councillor Choi.
Can you just clarify what the 75,000, like all the other things, is it everything that's listed here?
I'll let Kristen speak to that. What the fire training budget and the HVAC, I believe, or am I leaving anything out?
No.
Just those two.
Yeah.
And then whatever's remaining, put it into a reserve so that they know we are going to do the paving. We just want to make sure we
We proceed with purchase of the aircraft.
yeah, and proceed with purchase of the air fryer.
Yeah, so for as far as, so I guess that, sorry. That council approves the use of facility reserves for the purchase of the air fryer. And that council approves, sorry, that council defers the paving of the fire hall. And that council uses some of the funds raised for the fire hall for the HVAC and the training budget.
And any remainder put into a reserve specifically for paving.
Right. The remainder be reserved for the.
Okay. You got that? All right, is there a seconder for that? Are you you'll second that?
Oh, no, I
Oh,
can, yeah.
okay, yeah, all right.
I just want a
All right,
clarification.
yeah, you bet.
So with this,
You just second the motion, then we'll.
sure, I'll
get
second the motion.
Okay, go ahead, Martin, you have the first question.
Yeah, just a clarification, just want to make sure with our conversation, so we approved 75,000 already for 2024 for the rest of the payment.
Correct, yeah.
Oh,
All right, okay, any further questions? Just a mention on the air fryer, you know, the air fryer itself, it's a very safe way, to cook food. It goes beyond cooking French fries, you can cook meats in it, things like that as well. It doesn't require any fire suppression, and, there's no overhead fans, so, you know, I can recall that when we renovated the arena, that there was some criticism that we didn't have a cafeteria. And, you know, this will elevate that kitchenette on the second floor to more of a cafeteria status, which we had discussed when we were going through the choice of cafeteria or not. That fire suppression equipment is really expensive in the kitchen, hundreds of thousands turn into. So I think this will elevate that kitchenette to a higher degree, and there may be some more money forthcoming to be invested in that by organizations. Any other questions, council? It's been moved and seconded. I'll call the question. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay, Kristen, thanks very much for that. Taking us by the hand on that. Andrew, now we're going to make you work. Okay. How about we look at the Hurley Drain, section 78?
Yes, sir. Recently, staff had sent out notices that the municipality had received a request to do a brushing and clean out of the Hurley Drain. As a result, the property owner stated in the description had put in a request under section 78 to enclose a portion of the drain on his property. And it's at this point that I would like to outline that that I recommend that council accept the request filed under section 78 of the Drainage Act for concession 1 of lot 3 to enclose a portion of the Hurley Drain, and that staff to contact Lower Thames Conservation Authority and other regulatory authorities to ensure legal compliance, and for staff to send out notices to the landowners that would be involved. I'm open for questions at this point.
Yeah, council, please feel free to ask questions to the chair. Yep, Councilor McGill.
Yeah, Andrew, it looks like this drain continues on the top end and of course on the lower end. So is it already enclosed at the top end all the way farther up from where this enclosure is going to happen?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, the enclosed portion, yes, it starts at Centerville and goes upstream as an enclosed drain. The open ditch starts at Centerville and it goes downstream, and it makes a a southwest turn in that section, and on my map there in red, and it continues on and it outlets into the drain, one of the government drains. So what's being asked here is a portion of it be enclosed. Right now, I know of the portion that is in red that cuts the field in half. The portion that runs along the property line, I don't know about that yet. We would determine that as we go.
Okay. Thank you, Councilor McGill. Andrew, council, any further questions? Andrew, if I could ask, in terms of that drain, when you When they brush that drain, do they do one side or both sides of that drain when it's brushed?
It depends. If it is what the Conservation Authority and the Department of Fisheries and Oceans determine to be an F class, it can be both. If it's other classes, so D, C, and E, it may require only one side. So that's the reason why you may have some landowners that would say, why are they only doing one side? That's the reason.
Yeah, that was the intent of the question, just to solve that. Yeah. Okay. It certainly makes for a more efficient drain when it's brushed on both sides, though.
I agree.
There's no arguing that. Okay. Council, any further questions? Recommendations in front of you. Can I ask council for a move and a seconder on the Hurley drain recommendation? Councillor Vink. Seconder, Councillor Choi. Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Andrew, King Drain, can you walk us through that?
You do. This request is somewhat similar to the previous one, that the upstream portion of the drain has already been enclosed. The request that we have before us is to continue that enclosure downstream to at least where the drain makes a 90-degree turn, possibly to Coltsfoot, but I know of up to where it makes that turn for improved farming practices. At this point, I would recommend that council accept the request filed under section 78 to enclose a part of the King Drain and the other subsequent recommendations before us. I'm open for questions.
Thank you. Invitation's been extended for questions. Are you ready? Seeing none, would someone move the recommendation from the drainage inspector and our drainage superintendent? Councillor Haggett? Councillor McCollum? Last call for questions. All in favor? Carried unanimously. And Andrew, one more to go. Saxon Drain?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This one, as most of us are aware, there is a history attached to this drain that goes back a number of years. So just a brief background, there's multiple engineers' reports that are on this drain dating back to the late 1800s. Currently, right now, the enclosed portion of this drain that starts at Irish and it goes in a southeasterly direction until it makes a gentle 90-degree turn, and it turns to an open ditch on Grant Wolf's property. This is made up of two tile drains side by side, one from the earlier 2000s, older one from the 1970s. What we have before us is a request under section 78 to improve the enclosed portion of this drain to bring it up to the current provincial standards of 1.5 inch drainage coefficient. So that means that the drain should be able to handle 1.5 inches of rain in a 24-hour period without ponding significantly. And that is the main issue that we have before us. It's at this point that I recommend that council accepts the request filed under section 78 of the Drainage Act to reconstruct part of the Saxon drain and also the other subsequent recommendations before us. I'm open for questions at this point.
Okay. Thank you, Andrew. Questions, council, in regard to this? Yeah, go ahead, Councilor McCollum.
Yes, to Andrew, there's been no, coefficiency made on this, drain in 1974? Or when it was put in, should say, in 2001, was the coefficiency taken on the 74 drain at that time?
Through you, Mr. Mayor, so currently with the two together, they work together. It is still not at the current provincial standard of 1.5 inches. This is what I was able to gather going through the records from the tribunal visits and the other little bits that I was able to gather from the engineers' reports that we have. So that's the difference. That's what's being asked for. So what would it more than likely end up happening is the 1974 portion of the enclosed tile would be improved so that together the two drains would work at the current provincial standard.
Okay, follow up, Don, go ahead.
Yes, so you don't know what the coefficiency was and, when the two drains were put together in 2007?
The best that I can gather is it's 1.25 inches
There's
together.
no record of that?
The issue with the engineers' reports is they don't always come out and say, this is what we're designing to. So it can be hard without going through all of the complex math to determine that. So that's where I was able to gather from the tribunal visits that seemed to be accepted amongst everyone there that it wasn't to the current standard, even as the mid 2000s into 2010, 2011.
Yeah, I'll let you have a third.
So then right now, we're just going to ask you to, ask the ratepayers on the drain for, their advice or their knowledge of it, or?
So through you, Mr. Mayor, at this point, we would be accepting the request, or sorry, the council would be accepting the request. And then I would send out notices to everyone on the drain for feedback at that point. No engineer has been appointed yet. That would be next meeting or a meeting after that.
So there's going to be no cost right now?
Not right now, no.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so any further questions? Last call. The Saxon Drain, section 78, recommendation is before you. Is there a mover and a seconder? Deputy Mayor Schuldice, seconder, please. I'll second. Okay, Jody, second it. Okay. Questions? All in favor? Carried. Thank you very much, Andrew. We're on 8C, Recreation and Facilities Agreement. Kevin's not here. Jeff, would you like to take this? Okay.
So I apologize. This agreement got caught up in my office. The draft was prepared with Kevin and Kendra, and I was caught up in some other work that got caught up on. And so today we worked together with Kevin, Kendra, and myself to create a draft of the agreement. It's been printed and left on your desks. The intent of this agreement is to allow to create a good sort of good agreements, make good neighbors, good partners. And I think it's a great example of where putting together a little agreement makes it clear about everyone's expectations. And so we feel that this draft is ready to share with the Lions Club and get their input about any concerns they would have or any areas that they may require more clarification. And we're prepared to go ahead and share that and finalize the agreement and get a resolution to sign it. If council feels they need more time with it, we can wait till a future council meeting to sign it. But I think there's some feelings of urgency to get it signed, and we consider it to be a pretty routine matter.
Okay, thank you very much. It's Nice to have it done in their 50th anniversary year. And they're a valuable organization to Southwest Middlesex. And it's great to, and thank you, Jeff, for spearheading this. Council, any questions at all? Yes, go ahead. Councilor McGill.
I was just noticing on the last page, it says the Corporation of the Municipality of Kincardine above your
Yeah.
name.
We've been proposing a name change and I guess it slipped out. Like everything else with municipal work, we steal things, you know, blindly steal from others, and sometimes they know and sometimes they agree that we share, but it's a code in municipalities that we share things.
Thanks very much. We'll make that correction. And thank you, Mark, for pointing that out. And Jeff, thank you for your humor there. Sometimes you need a little humor around a council horseshoe. Okay, yes, Deputy Mayor,
Thank
please
you,
go
Mayor
on.
Mayhew. I'd just like to thank staff for the work they put into this agreement. And I just wondered if we could have the Lions Board of Directors take a quick look at it before we finalize it. And I can let them know that there is some urgency here.
Okay, and so it'll be the next meeting then that
Yep.
we will.
So, yes, Kendra, and if you're prepared to keep it for the next meeting, we intended to say, approve it and give us a resolution that allows us to meet with the Lions Club and make any minor changes. And if there was something substantive, we would come back to council and we were going to ask you to pass a resolution to give that discretion to staff.
We're down to one meeting and one meeting.
If you have some leeway, once we get some input from the Lions Club, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, and so Kendra's put together a recommendation that she'll share with council for consideration that would, and again, I want to, you know, it requires some trust, but I think it's fairly routine. But if we come up with something substantive, we'll hold off on signing it, bring it back to the July meeting.
Looks pretty straightforward.
Yeah, Martin, and then, yeah, go ahead, Martin.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Allen. To Jeff, we just received this before the meeting. So I wondered if you could give us a bit of a rundown what's in the agreement. So just from the ratepayers' point of view, because I think the Lions Club are going to be using the kitchen. So I just wonder how that interacts with the public.
Sure, and I'm happy to do a quick overview of it. I know it's at your desk and it's not in the agenda package. So the agreement is a standard agreement between two parties, the Lions Club and the municipality. It covers, and I'm just going to talk about the high level, it covers the use of the premises, which is the kitchen. In this scenario, the Lions Club would have access to the kitchen. The kitchen's still owned by the municipality. They would have keys at the leisure of the municipality, but we've guaranteed them that we'll give them keys so they can get in and access. The term of the agreement is a 5-year agreement with an extension. And then operationally, there's clauses in the agreement around ensuring that the kitchen's always supervised, that they can't assign the agreement. The Lions aren't permitted to assign the agreement at their own discretion to someone else. We can consent to that, but it has to be with our consent. They should take no actions that damage that would result in the premises or any attached fixtures or chattels to be transferred, so they can't be. And these are obvious things. And again, when I say to you, agreements make good relationships, I don't think there's any question that the Lions Club would start selling our bridges. But I think we just want to be clear about they should be asking. And because sometimes you can get into some gray area about they want to add better fridges, and I think everybody would be reasonable about that, but you want to communicate. So it just ensures the communication happens. We get into areas involving insurance and indemnity, standard types of clauses. Under services, both parties agree that the cost of operating the kitchen would be how it would be broken down. The municipality pays for water and hydro. And we look after the grounds maintenance around the arena that the kitchen is in. And then the costs inside the kitchen would be administered by the Lions Club. So there's supplies and things like that. And I'm really I'm really summarizing at a high level, so I hope you're okay with this. And that the municipality would agree to fund capital repairs and replacement costs subject to council approval. So obviously, again, that initiates a discussion and it makes it clear that the council ultimately approves. We go further into repairs and improvements in section 6 of the agreement and just provide some clarity around whose responsibility is what. This section actually includes a clause about the Lions Club committing to following best practices. We encourage them to have people take the food handling course, which that might already be their policy. But again, it creates this opportunity for the conversation. And there are annual inspections by the health unit that we refer to in that section of the agreement to ensure that they happen. And then there's a number of clauses in the general in the back. And again, we mentioned insurance and liability and standard types of clauses that, you know, the agreements in full force in effect when it's signed. And we added a section 8 for assignment, which again says they can't assign the agreement without our explicit permission. We have to go back to council and notification about who you notify. And we had great experience with the current Lions Club president. That's the name that we put in for notification. This again would compel the conversation. If they have a change in personnel or would like to give that man a break, because I know as a service club member, sometimes you feel like you need a break. Yeah. It'll only be for a couple weeks. So they may give us another name they'd like to put in there. Or perhaps the president gets stuck with this responsibility. Yeah. So that'll allow us to identify who the communications are. And that's the substance of the agreement. And happy to review that.
Yes, Councillor Haggett, thanks for waiting there.
I just, was reading the clause about the egg hall on Fair Week. I mean, is the Lions Club renting? What if somebody wants to rent that hall? Or wants to have the kitchen? I mean, so does the Lions Club gonna say we're there Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Saturday, and there's
a clause that deals with
like,
that.
I'm just a little confused on
Yeah.
it because it's still Southwest Middlesex Ratepayers building.
Yeah.
And hall kitchen.
The clause says that it's used by that facility in the other agreement commits the use of the facility to the fair for that weekend. That's under the current. And that's our current practice and our current arrangement for the management of the facility. So this agreement makes it, just to be absolutely clear, then that weekend's likely not available to the Lions Club. But again, that clause allows for the conversation to happen. And if things change, then obviously there'll be conversation between the Lions Club and the management. The clause states our expectation that things could change and that would have to be communicated.
Yep, Bob, go ahead, Jody.
I'm just confused because this sounds like, I understand the kitchen and the agreement and everything, but this sounds like they're gonna run the kitchen all the time. I'm just a little confused. Maybe Mike can tell me.
Or maybe Kendra could even offer a little bit.
Yep. I think we run
there-
both of them if they're prompt.
Yeah, through the mayor. There is a clause in there if a ratepayer is interested in renting the facility that they would take precedent over the Lions Club. But that's the point of the agreement so that we know who has it at what time. We can tell them that this is booked through the municipal office. The Lions Club won't be doing any of the bookings. It's just it's theirs to use. If that answers your question.
Yep, no, that's my understanding of it. Yep. Okay. Yes, Amy, go, Councillor Choi, please go ahead.
Thank you. Through you to the deputy mayor. I know there was some, how this came up is that the Lions Club were thinking of purchasing items. Can we share what those items are?
Actually, I don't have the list in front of me. So I'm sorry, I can get it. But that is why they wanted this agreement in place, because they're going to move in. A lot of it's storage stuff for dishes. I don't have the full list. Let's say we can put 100 dishes in the storage compartments that we can put in there. It's ready to go. It's easier for cleanup. There's other stuff too. I just don't have it in front of me right now. But just if I could just touch on what Councillor Haggett comment. There's a lot of flexibility here. We're not trying to totally control this. If anybody else wants to use it, it won't be an issue. We just want to make sure we can go in afterwards and make sure everything's in good order and cleaned up and everything. That's all that is.
I think it's wise to deal with it. We're on a summer schedule coming up in July and August, so there's less meetings to bring these back. So I think entrusting our administration with it, and if there is an issue, I know they'll bring it back to us at the Lions Club, but I think we should put it in if we can. Okay. Any other questions? Jeff, a recommendation that the
Clerk has the
Okay.
recommendation.
So through the mayor to council, the resolution would be that council authorizes staff to finalize the agreement for the use of the recreation center kitchen in consultation with the Lions Club, and further authorizes the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement provided no substantial changes are required.
Is there a mover and a seconder? Okay, Councillor Vink, Councillor Myers. We've had lots of questions on this in advance of the motion, so I'll call it. All in favor? Carried unanimously. Okay. I have been advised of no notice of motion. There is correspondence and petitions. There's a tile loan there. Name's been redacted, as you can see. Recommendation of the approval of the tile loan application for the property number as listed in the amount of 45,000. Is there a mover and a seconder for that? Okay, thanks, Councillor McCollum, seconded by Councillor Choi. Discussion? All in favor? Carried. Unfinished business, I have been advised of none. No items have been removed from the consent agenda. July, August meeting dates, staff have made a recommendation here. They have moved those, I can ask Kendra to speak to this. They are trying to accommodate the public in terms of planning matters by having them at the 6 o'clock hour. Kendra, would you like to speak to that?
Yes, so I am suggesting a move from 1:30 to 6 to accommodate planning applications. The move for the July meeting was our planner is away for the 17th, so it is possible to still have that meeting that day. They will send someone else, but Alana will be away. And the change to the August meeting, while I am aware that there will be AMO, is to accommodate the incoming CAO and her requested vacation. So these can be changed. They were just a suggestion, so up to the group.
Okay. They've been suggested to accommodate planning and to accommodate staff. And we'll have lots of work to go. We'll have to get two nice business done into one. Is there a mover and second for that? Councillor Choi, Councillor Miguel, I have that correct? Mover and seconder? Okay, all right, yeah. Yes, Councillor Choi, go ahead.
Thank you. I would like to keep it for the same dates and then just change it from 1:30 to 6 o'clock.
Okay.
So
All right.
Wednesday, July 17th, and then Wednesday, August 14th.
Those are the dates that they're currently scheduled.
Yeah. Council, if you want to refer to your calendar there, you certainly can. Yeah, just a minute. I just wanted to do that. Okay, yep, go ahead.
So, on the 17th, the planner's not available? Is that right?
Yes, but a planner can be made available to speak to her planning applications.
So virtually or something?
He'll probably, someone from the county will come. Probably a senior planner that oversees Alana's work.
And what about the 14th? Was somebody not available on the 14th? August 14th, I mean?
Yes, so the incoming CAO has vacation booked, so she would be unable to attend.
And I just want to say, we can accommodate we can accommodate with coverage, whether it be an acting CAO, or whether I come back for that evening or whatever. We can certainly accommodate that to make things work. We just thought we'd try the date on it.
Yeah, it's all available for council discussion.
So on the August one, what is being proposed? Councillor Choi, you want to keep that date the same? Yeah, I think, okay, and no objection to the 6 o'clock time. Is that correct? Yeah. Martin, go ahead.
Well, I appreciate what Amy stated. I respect her opinion, but this is offered by the staff. And I think we should have Alana as a regular planner. And I don't see the difference whether we only have one meeting a month. I think we should conform to what the staff has indicated here.
Okay, difference of opinion on that, council. We're at the horseshoe to decide. Is there any further comment on it? Councillor McGill?
It is kind of short notice to be changing meeting dates, especially in the summer when people have holidays planned. So I guess I'd be okay with, I think 6 o'clock is good because they're planning meetings, right? So, you know, people are more apt to be able to come at 6 than at 1:30. But maybe we should keep the original dates.
Okay, yes. Councillor Myers?
Like what about staff? This is all about staff here. I'm okay with moving it another week, like a week later, like it's not a big deal to me. 6 o'clock.
So I just want to say we can make it work either way. We just, you know, it's just going to be a different group of staff, but that's fine. I mean, if it's scheduled, I don't want to create controversy where there's not controversy. I think we're happy to do them at the regular date. We just offered them, but there appear to be conflicts and we should try to make it work for everyone.
Yep, Deputy Mayor. Your hands up.
Thank you,
I
Mayor
believe.
Mayhew. I'm just trying to look for some compromise here, and I'm wondering if we could split the difference and keep the July 17th meeting on July 17th, but move it to 6, because I believe Jeff will still be here. But with you leaving on the 29th or shortly thereafter, I wondered if we could move the 14th to the 24th to accommodate the new CAO.
There is a problem with the July 17th. I should check my schedule along with everyone else. I'm in for the July 17th meeting, I would be in Newfoundland, but staff are quite capable of covering.
Can you be here for the 24th?
Oh, I thought you were going to say for the 17th. Yes, I can. But Kendra, I think this is, I should let Kendra speak this and keep quiet.
Yes, Kendra, please go ahead.
Through the mayor to council, I think that either decision, there will be staff missing. It is the summer, so I guess it just it's honestly up to council. There's no, a senior planner can come for Alana. A CAO can act in Amanda's place. It's totally up to you.
Council. Our purpose here is to make decisions. Yes, Councillor Vink.
Well, I think we should have the CAOs there. New CAO is only going to start July 29th. And so we should accommodate the new CEO. So I think we should go with staff recommendation. We only have one meeting a month anyway. So unless there's council members that can't make it for, then I can see changing that.
Councillors feel strong about their opinions, they'll make a motion. Are you making that a motion?
I'm making that a motion to confirm what the staff has asked for.
Yes. Kendra, got some concern there? Okay. All right. I didn't think so. Okay. And is there a second for that? Okay. Councilor Lawrence. All right. Just a point of order. Very often they want a motion and a seconder, and then allow discussion. And I know sometimes I deviate from that a little bit because sometimes I like discussion before you actually make a motion, so you know what you're getting into. Okay, so sometimes the chair may flounder on that a little bit, but it's not on purpose. It's just to accommodate the discussion on controversial issues. I bring forth those questions very quickly, and if it's not controversial, I'll ask for a mover and a seconder, and then I'll ask for discussion. According to Robert's Rules of Order. Okay. All right, there's a mover and a seconder on the floor. Last call for questions. Yes.
I'd like to be fair about this, so by changing the date, is there some counselors that can't make it? And is that why they want to change?
That's exactly both dates. I wouldn't ask for it to be changed otherwise.
Okay, motion stands. Okay, move and second. I'll call it.
For an amendment.
Okay, yes, if you like it. And
Okay.
ask.
Okay, well, if I could ask, Counselor Choi another question, are both meetings affected, okay.
Okay. Take back. All right. Okay. Counselor Choi, would you like to make that a motion?
Sure, I can make a motion that we keep the original dates of July 17th and August 14th and move from 1:30 to 6 o'clock.
Okay, that's good. Is there a second for that? Counselor McGill. I think we know what we're talking about, so I don't need to call for discussion. All in favor? All opposed? Carried. Okay. We have got that. So 12A is off books there. County council and conference updates. Nothing at the moment. Any announcements from council? Yes. Jody, go ahead.
Don't forget
Councilor
we
Hagan.
got Canada Day coming up, right?
Yep.
Watch the store. How many food trucks are that? 5. Plus the curling club's having the refreshments.
Yep.
Upstairs.
Mhm.
Got a couple bicycles for the kids, so. And music, so it should be good, so. Hopefully we have a nice
Yeah.
day.
Yep.
and Good turnout.
Yeah, that's good. Jody, if you need any help, or,
Yes.
participation from counselors, you can come up with a schedule, get us to, opening ceremonies, keep me in the loop. If you need anything, let me know. I'm not going anywhere that day. I'm in here, so, anything you need, I can give you the whole day, okay?
Should be really good.
Okay, I think so too. And I want to thank, the Canada Day Committee, very much, for the, work and kudos to, Councillor Haggett for, that fundraising. He did an admirable job there. Really did. Okay, any other announcements? Yes,
Yeah.
Martin.
Between Councilor Choi and I, going to be a strawberry social in Warrenville, June 26th.
Okay, yep,
What time is it, Councilor Choi?
I might have it here. I got, $5 each, 6 to 8 p.m. 6 to 8 p.m., $5 each.
Or $20 per family.
Oh, is that right? That's good. Okay, all right. Okay. Any further announcements? I just would like to say I want to thank the hiring committee very much. I stepped back from that and I understand it went very, very well. In my conversations with Jeff, I want to thank you. I heard he really worked you hard. He told me today. And it was a bit of a grind, but he kept your nose to the wheel. And I also had the pleasure of having a coffee with Amanda in Timmy's at Mount Bridges there the other day, just to kind of break the ice. I thought we should, and it looks good. I want to thank Jeff particularly for his work, and as well as the hiring committee. And we look forward to Amanda coming. Anything else, Jeff?
I'll just mention that the press release for the hiring of the new CAO was put on the councilors' desks today. It was released this afternoon, and just because the public doesn't see it, I'll mention that the municipalities announced the hiring of Amanda Gubbles as the new CAO for the municipality of Southwest Middlesex, and she starts with Southwest Middlesex on Monday, July 29th. And yes, the hiring committee, the recruitment committee worked very hard.
Okay, thank you. Council, we're getting near the end of this paper here. We got the Warsville Community Event. We have to go into closed session. Our business isn't done. May I have a motion that we go into closed? Deputy Mayor Schuldice, seconded by Councilor McCollum. All in favor? Carried. Mike, there's gavel.